Heavenly Father, we do come to worship you at this time, Lord. It's going to be about your word today and understanding the movement in history, understanding the reality of your call, learning from the past and what you expect of us and other people you've worked with. Holy Spirit, allow me to remember the things that I've studied. Allow us, Lord, to know that although we're in a different environment for Sunday morning, it's actually more of a learning environment where we can grow in understanding the authority of the Word. Lord, it's still kind of early, so we've got to wake up, so allow us to pay attention. Allow us to be free of distractions. And allow us just to grow, Lord Jesus, in a better appreciation for who you are and what it is that you have done on our behalf. We love you, Lord. We thank you, Lord, and we give this time to you and ask for a special blessing. Thank you, Jesus, for your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I'm going to listen a little bit more. And go ahead and turn. We were going to be in John 8, but when I found out there were a lot of people going to be absent, I wasn't sure who was going to be here. Keep in mind that it is going to be a different setting here with the rooms going on right here. And if you have to go pee, you miss a chance. Cross your legs. Don't get up. Don't go anywhere. So I will try to hurry. But we are, instead of being in John 8, what we're going to do is we needed to give some background information to John 8, because I had no idea it was going to be here. Wednesday night, I had about 3 or 4, and all in for me, they wouldn't be here. So honestly, I thought I might be talking to Jacynda, maybe Lamar told me. I wasn't sure. I didn't know where everybody was. I mean, you told me you were coming back. We weren't sure. So what I did is I prayed about it, and what I was led to do by the Lord was, instead of getting into the John 8 section and having to repeat it, what I'm going to do is give some background information that is needed to John 8, because how John 8 ends is Jesus Christ saying, before Abraham was, I am. But in order to understand that, in order to understand his connection to Abraham, in order to understand a bigger picture of Abraham, we must first go look at the story of the Old Testament patriarch, Abraham himself, okay? So instead of studying John 8, what we're going to do is we're going to be in the Old Testament again today. We're going to be in the Old Testament again today. And we're going to see Abraham's story and its connection to Jesus Christ. Because not only does the Abrahamic covenant become crucial for understanding God's revelation in history, which means how He reveals Himself, how we know God, but there's going to be a covenant ceremony that's going to take place in Genesis 15 itself that actually foreshadows the cross. Often missed. But it's all very important understanding how redemption history plays out, God's prediction, and where it is He was taking a plan of salvation that incorporates all of us. Most of you know you've been in Acts. You've been here for Acts, you're paying attention. Most of you know who are the true descendants of Abraham. Everyone who has faith in Jesus Christ. Which means, do you have faith in Jesus Christ? Then this means something to you. You are the true seed. It's not the bloodline of Abraham, but the spiritual family that comes to Jesus Christ, because the Abrahamic covenant itself looks to Jesus Christ. So what we're going to see today is, we're going to look at the story of Abraham. We're going to be in Genesis 12, Genesis 15. But in order to understand Abraham and his importance, you've got to go back to Genesis 10. Okay? We're going to be quickly going over the post-flood world. What is the post-flood world? What has just happened? What's just happened? Yeah, we just had Noah's flood. Now we go back in Genesis itself, we saw evil humanity. We saw corruption. We saw murder. We saw war. We saw these great, crazy demonic hybrids. From the Ben Elohim, the sons of God, what they produced in Genesis 6. We saw a lot of crazy stuff going on. But God wipes all this out, and we're left with Noah and his family. Okay? Now after Noah and his family, for some reason, something happens, and this whole remembrance of Yahweh, worshiping Yahweh, kind of falls out of favor. And then all of a sudden we see a quick development and advancement of a post-flood world. And it's really going to start with this guy right here, starting in Genesis 10, verse 8 through 12, with a guy named Nimrod. A guy named Nimrod. Now, Nimrod is probably a title or rebel. Now let's see what old Nimrod does. Alright? Genesis 10, you're going, wait, I thought we were on Abraham. Remember, we were having to set the tone of the call of Abraham, the world he was called out of, and why he's important. Because in the end, the fact of the matter is, if it wasn't for Abraham, you wouldn't know God. Because here's the deal. After the flood, everybody seemed to forget about God. All their problems seemed to be Mind you, it didn't matter. We're going to worry about the world. We got to rebuild things. We got to build it bigger, better, faster, and make it stronger. That's what we're worried about. This world, this world, this world, this world, this world. In the midst of worrying about this world, what happens to God? Over to the side, kind of forget about it. And this is what happens here. With one of your main figures, the great city builder, Nimrod. Genesis 10, 8 through 12. Read that for us, Jacynda.
Cush fathered Nimrod. He was the first on earth to be a mighty man. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. And from that land he went into Assyria and built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Ir, Calah, and Raisin, between Nineveh and Calah. That is the great city.
What we got here is Mesopotamia. Anybody knows anything about ancient Near Eastern history, old world history? The earliest civilizations where man and cities spring up is where? Mesopotamia. What does the Bible say after the flood? What happens to become the first place with cities? Mesopotamia. Who is this great city builder? This guy named Nimrod. Now, Nimrod itself is a title. We're going to say what title means. Rebel. He's a rebel, okay? He is a rebel and he has a clue, and he is someone who throughout history, they have offered various historical identifications. Now, if you ever study ancient Near Eastern history, you study on Nimrod, you're going to see a lot of ideas trying to figure out who this guy was. They stem from anywhere from basically divine figures. Was he a god? Was he a god myth? Was he a legendary figure? Was he a divine figure? Was he half man, half god? Was he a historical king like Sargon? Who was this guy? Well, we don't know. We don't know. And there's various periods. Quite frankly, of all the ancient Near Eastern periods, we can go back pretty far. But in all honesty, I don't think we have all the archaeological evidence for who this Nimrod figure was. He's an historical figure. His name is Rebel. He's a city builder. And for now, what you need to know is he's described as a mighty hunter. Now, yes, in ancient Near East, kings often hunted lions. You had to be, you were a man's man back at that time. You had lions trying to kill you, bears trying to kill you, wild animals trying to kill you, so you needed to hunt. Which is true. You could probably do that. But that's not what this is talking about here. When we see the term mighty, it's the bull in the Hebrew. Now, what this is referring back to is a great military warrior. All right? So he's mighty. He's a great military warrior. None of that is a hunter. Now, back in this time, yes, remember, hunting required the ability to what? Do things like kill animals. But think about this. What did kings do in their free time? They hunted. They had to hunt. And who was the biggest, baddest king there was? The guy who could hunt the best. So what this hunting became was a metaphor for a king who could conquer. And what this begins to look at is, it is a conquest of a king and his ability to enslave and build empires. Oh, wow. So what we have here is, we have a tyrannical military man who was also a what? Great empire builder. All corresponding with ancient Near Eastern history of what we know about Mesopotamia, what we know how the world goes, how you know your Bible is real, how your scripture is valid, why you can put faith in it, is because all this correlates with archaeological evidence we have of civilization itself. All going back to Mesopotamia and this great tyrannical military man who was a great empire builder. So what do we have in the post-flood world? First thing established, post-flood governments, enslavement, building empires. We are going to move towards a great one-world empire starting with this man. Well, the post-flood world will end with a one-world government, and it begins with a one-world government. Just keep that in mind. So this is how it goes right here with this guy. Well, this is going to do that. We've set the tone for post-flood government. We're setting the tone for Abraham's cultural call by looking at the origin of post-flood religion. For those of you who have been around me, where should we turn to now for the origins of post-flood religion? What story, what popular children's story that you probably mislearned in Sunday school, that you've all heard before, would be the origins of the post-flood religion that Abraham was called out of? Anybody can all guess that? What are we talking about? The Tower of Babel. Very good. So turn over to Genesis 11. Turn over to Genesis 11. We are to the Tower of Babel, which really has by far some of the most archaeological evidence of anything in the ancient world. If you remember correctly when I've taught you this before, we will see that. Let's quickly look at this. And in order to save time, Jacynda's going to read Genesis 11 through 5, and then she's going to skip down to 8 through 9. Okay? So this is what we're going to see. Remember, this is not a story about how we got different languages. Different languages came from the rebellion in the story. Keep that in mind. God didn't throw it in there so you know why there's Chinese, why there's Spanish, why there's English, why there's German. It's not thrown in there. These languages came about because of the rebellion that is here. You see how that works? So this is not a story about the world's diverse languages. Did you hear me on that? It's a story about mankind's rebellion and post-flood religion. All right, Genesis 11, 1 through 5, verse 8 through 9. Go ahead and read that for us.
Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there.
Now keep in mind, who did we already see connected to Shinar a minute ago? Nimrod. So many people think this guy, the same guy who built Babel, the same guy who built Assyria, the same guy who built Mesopotamia, is responsible for this. Keep all that in mind. Go and keep going.
And they said to one another, Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top to the heavens. And let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of man had built. So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore his name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth.
Now, I'm not going to go into all the detail. You can go back to one of my YouTube lectures, and you can hear all about this, but I do got to remind you of a few things. First, number one, this is not a description of the construction of a mythological heavenly skyscraper. No, it's not. They're not trying to build the Empire State Building in the ancient Near East. They're not trying to literally build the building that reaches God. What are they building? There's one ancient Near Eastern symbol that stands for post-flood religion that matches all the descriptions here, and that is pinpointing the origins of the historical construction known as the ziggurat. You need to know about the ziggurat. It is coming back to fashion again. Very popular. Very popular. As a matter of fact, the original pyramid flat was the ziggurat step. Keep that in mind. Now, this original audience is just leaving Egypt, so they're used to the flats. But when you're going to the origin of the earth and post-flood religion, you start where it starts with a step. So we're starting with the original pyramid itself. And as a matter of fact, does anybody know what the very first Egyptian pyramid looked like? It looked like a step pyramid, a ziggurat, which means they incorporated the ziggurat into the Egyptian pyramid. That's where it comes from. Now, what this is talking about here, you go, how do we know it's a ziggurat? How do you know that? Well, we know it for quite a few reasons. One, the material used. This is going to be baked brick. Very expensive stuff. Very expensive stuff, okay? What's some expensive building material today? You think of anything? Anything expensive? Because I don't build things, so I can give you an example. Anybody that knows any building stuff, you might know better than I do. But here's the deal. You don't take expensive building stuff and just use it for any old thing. You use it for the most important, prominent structures that you possibly can. And in this case, the most prominent structure in the ancient Near Eastern world was the ziggurat, exactly made of this right here. Now we've got the ancient Mesopotamian city, as described in verse 4. What was the ancient Mesopotamian city? Was it a bunch of houses and neighborhoods and civic centers? What was it? It was one big temple complex. What was the center point? Because it says right here, we're building a city with a tower. What was the big tower in the Mesopotamian city? The ziggurat. So we see that right there. It's beginning to say this. And then we got that little phrase, the top into the heavens. That is not talking about getting as high as you can go. This is a literal ancient Near Eastern phrase that talks about the peak of the ziggurat and its function itself. We'll see in a minute what its function is. And then, of course, the purpose of the ziggurat was what? The gods to come down. What happens in verse 5?
God comes
Pay attention.
down.
What happens in verse 5? The divine figure comes down. So what we have in all this right here, and along with all our other evidence, is we have the ancient Near Eastern ziggurat, which was what? This was what was going to be your ancient portal between realms. Okay? It was going to be the structure that held the stairway that divine beings moved upon when they went from heaven to earth and to the netherworld itself. And most importantly for this right here, what the ziggurat was the ziggurat itself was nothing less than the main symbol for the entire Mesopotamian false religious system. What does all that have to do with Abraham? What's going on here? I thought we were talking about Abraham. I don't quite understand. Well, you need to understand this. At this point, we are in a very well-established post-flood world. We're in a very well-established world that Abraham was called of. We have a well-established government. We have a well-established religion. We have well-established urbanization, city building, these type of things. We have well-established technology. We have well-established ideas about life after death. We have well-established ideas about the meaning of life. What do we not have that's not established at all? We have no knowledge of the one true living God. So what direction is mankind heading in? He's doomed. He's doomed. Literally at this point, the way the text plays out, absolutely nobody in the post-flood world at this point, based on the context, has any idea who Yahweh is. How are we going to have a relationship with a God we don't know? Answer, we can't. And if we don't have a relationship with the one true living God, what happens to our eternal place then? Answer, we are doomed. So what happens? God pulls back the curtain, He reveals Himself, and He intervenes and offers the divine remedy by showing Himself to one man named Abraham. Was it because Abraham was great? Nope. He chose him out of His grace, His mercy, and because God was wise enough to choose who God wanted to choose, just like you and your salvation. This is painting this picture right here. It's painting the picture of the divine call and God's divine remedy to the Babel problem, and mankind having no idea who He is. So flip on over to Genesis 11, 27 to 32. This is going to start, we're going to move real fast with this. This is going to start with family background. But you got to pay attention to is I've got to somehow incorporate into your mind who this family is and what this means as we move to Abraham. Alright? Who this family is. And we are still a time in the world where they had clans. Think of tribes. Okay? Who is the tribal chieftain of Abraham's clan? Who do you think it would be? Who's normally the tribal chieftain? The elder. Who's going to be the elder of Abraham's clan? His daddy. What's his daddy's name? Terah. Very good. Does anybody know what the name Terah means? White. Plays off what? There's a particular object in the sky. It's white at night. What's it called? The moon. All are pretty much, almost all, many, not all, but many of these characters will play off the white object in the nighttime sky known as the what? The moon. Why would their names play off the moon?
Moon God.
Because they worship who? The moon god. Nana or sin. This is his name. Not sin that we could commit transgressions, but his name was actually sin. Got it all right there. Go ahead and read Genesis 11, 27 through 32 for us. Terah's family tree.
Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran fathered Lot. Haran died in the presence of his father Terah in the land of his kindred in Ur of the Chaldeans. And Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarah, and the name of Nahor's wife Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah and Iscah. Now Sarah was barren, she had no children.
Real quick, right there. We are going to be in Ur of the Chaldeans. I'll say more in a minute. Does anybody know where Ur is? We're talking about southern Mesopotamia. What modern nation does Abraham have right now?
Iraq.
He's in Iraq. So Abraham's going to start out here in Iraq. You know, all these wars going on in Iraq. You know what's going on now, buddy. So we got Iraq right here. We're starting out in Iraq with Ur of the Chaldeans. We'll get more of that in a second. Go ahead and go verse 31 through 32.
Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his grandson, and Sarah his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth together from Ur of the Chaldeans to go into the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. The days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran.
So we start in Ur, southern Mesopotamia, Iraq. We go north. We go up to Iran, which is going to be what? Modern-day Turkey. So we got Abraham's clan starting in Iraq, then going to Turkey. Okay, this will all be important for later. But in Terah's family tree, we start out with Terah, whose of course name means moon itself, and it's playing on the prominent lunar worship of his family. You guys can look at Joshua 24 sometime. It talks about how Terah was an idolater. Remember, Abraham wasn't called because he was a great man of God. Abraham was an idolater. He was going to hell. And God had to appear to him and pull him out of the worldly culture. Just like you. You don't start out going, I got a relationship with God, because you, in any shape, form, or fashion, are worthy of that call. Just like Abraham. Through God's grace, He calls you, just like Abraham. So Abraham starts out in this idolatrous family. We got these three brothers right here. We start with Abram, and if I say Abraham, you know what I'm talking about, right? Now, Abram means exalted father. Okay? Abraham means father of multitudes, or father of many. So we've got daddy and big daddy. Just remember that. Abram, Abraham, that's what it means. Then we got Nahor, don't worry about him, we'll get him in a minute. Haran, who dies, and his big contribution is, he has 2 kids, 2 important kids. One of these kids is named Lot. How well and how much will Lot play in the Abraham story? What a bet. And Lot is always screwed up, okay? Lot is just always screwing things up, whether it be Sodom and Gomorrah, whether it be incest relations with the daughters, whether it be needing to rescue by Abraham from the world powers of the day. Abraham loved Lot, but Lot was just that child that always feel like, God, why did you give me this child? Okay? That child, that's Lot, okay? And so this is Lot, always getting in trouble. Then there's Milcah, Lot's sister, who will be the grandmother of Rebekah and the great-grandmother of Leah and Rachel. Why are they important? Who are they? Yeah, now we're starting to see this unfold, aren't we? Because they practice endogamy, which is marriage in the family, okay? And they're all going to start at Ur, that Sumerian, not Samaritan, but Sumerian city in southern Mesopotamia, modern Iraq. They're going to travel to Iran in verse 31, modern Turkey. And then verse 32 tells us something important happens. Paradox. Now, when you do the math, and you do how everything works out in the story itself, Abraham is still alive. Or Abraham leaves when Terah is still alive. So this is all going to play out in a minute. His daddy doesn't die, and then he goes, I think I'll leave. He is asked by God, commanded by God, if he wants to be blessed, to leave his daddy while he's still alive. Why is that? Because God's call is going to come at a cost. It's not going to be cheap. It's going to take a whole lot to step out and follow God's obedience, because it's not going to be easy to follow his plan for you, for Abraham, or anyone else. Let's move fast right here in Genesis 12. Let's get on down to Genesis 12. Genesis 12, okay? And this is where I've got to cut some out in the process of actually getting it in the middle of it, which is going to be hard to do, but we'll see how we can do it, okay? So bear with me if we can do this. Genesis 12, 1 through 3. Genesis 12, verse 1 through 3. Read that for us, Jacynda.
Now the Lord said to Abram, Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed.
Now, based on Acts 7 and Genesis 15, it seems like the Lord actually appeared to Abraham in Ur, and for some reason the family goes from Ur to Haran instead of going to Canaan like they're supposed to. Okay? The reason probably why is there's a table of moon god worshippers, and moon god worshippers we shall stay. You crazy Abraham. I don't know about this imaginary being that's talking to you, but I don't know this guy. You know, this is kind of what he's saying. Okay? So one way or another, this is probably going to be the second call right here. Okay? And this is where God makes clear. What does he say first? He starts out with all you who got the Great Commission wrong. The imperative command here is actually go. Unlike the Great Commission, this one is there. And as a matter of fact, it's you go yourself. You get me out of here. Why does he say that? You don't worry about those other people. I got a plan for you. Don't let them hold you back, because they will if you do. Starts out by go. Go yourself. Get yourself out of your country, your kindred, and your father's house. This means leave or abandon your country, which is your land, your kindred, which is your family, and your father's household, which is your inheritance. How big is all that stuff in the culture of that day? That's everything. So get rid of everything. An uncompromising command with no wiggle room to leave behind or separate himself from his total sphere of influence, everything that is familiar to him, and anything that offers him worldly security. Was this called easy? I mean, so if anyone ever sees you walking down an aisle, sign a piece of paper, raise your hand, is that giving you the true gospel message? Of course not. It wasn't then, it wasn't Jesus, and it's not now. It will cost you something, or it's not your calling. Understand that. We see this right here. Total sphere of influence, total familiarity, total world security. Which means obedience to God's call will be great and costly to him, and he's getting called to a land that, if you notice, is this land described to him? Is it saying this is going to be a great land full of milk and honey? This is going to be a land you want to be at. This is going to be a beautiful land. We're going to have a great house and great kids and great everything's going to be there for you, Abraham. Does it describe it at all? No. So what is he saying? I want you to forsake everything, and I want you to follow me to a place I'm taking you, and this place is going to be something I'll reveal to you in later days. Which means what? He's not giving a sight. He's making a trust. This is going to be true faith, following God's lead, trusting God, despite knowing all the details. This is what we're seeing happen right here. So he's telling, he said, you got to hit this hypothetical place of total uncertainty, okay? And you're not going to have any idea of what you get in return. Which means what God is letting him know is to be obedient to the calling and to be used for the divine purpose. It's going to come at a personal risk and a personal cost to Abraham, to where he's not going to be allowed to live a tidy, comfortable, predictable, worldly way of life. You want a comfortable way of life? Don't follow Jesus Christ. It wasn't that way then. It's not that way now. You want your life to be predictable, you're the wrong religion. If you truly would belong to Jesus Christ. This is what he's saying right here. You must forsake all your former allegiances, and in turn, you must fill that void with me. So what does God say? It's about me and all about me. And if it's not, then it's not about me at all. This is what he's saying to Abraham right from the start right here. This brings us down right here to the divine promises. Try to go fast. The command in verse 1 leads to the divine promises. Now keep in mind, he doesn't know where this land is. He doesn't have all the details. But he gets a little bit of the picture painted right here. So, you can try to say, hey, well, he's getting this part right here. That's great. You believe everything for this kind of vague promise he's getting right here. Go ahead and read verse 2 through 3.
And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed.
Now what we've got here is, this is an implication that becomes explicit in verse 7. The divine promise is threefold. Does anybody know the threefold aspects of the Abrahamic covenant right here? What are they? Starts out with what?
Land.
Land. Land. God promises them land. On the Lord's side, we got land. God promises them what else?
Blessing.
Offspring. We get the blessing in a second. Offspring. Blessing is in there, by the way. Good. Offspring. So offspring, because you can't be a great nation unless you have children. So we've got land, offspring. What's the problem with having offspring? What's Sarah like? Well, she's married. She can't have kids. So how are we going to have offspring? Wow. So we've got a great offspring to overcome. This is what God's going to do throughout everyone's life. Give a promise and make it a promise where a great obstacle must be overcome for that promise to be fulfilled. And then he promises blessing. But notice this. God will bless Abraham, so Abraham can do what? Bless others. He didn't give it to him to sit on. He gave it to him to go out and be a blessing to the nations. Notice how this works. He is to be a vehicle of blessing. Just like you. Anything you say, oh God, thank you for this blessing. If you're not using it to advance the kingdom, and you're not using it to help others, then it's not a blessing. It's something holding back. Because all true divine blessings will be used as a vehicle to get others to God. That's what this is saying right here. Understand all this. Now initially this blessing is going to be divine protection and God-given success, which Abraham would use to bring others in. But inevitably, it's going to be the fact that Jesus Christ will come through him and in turn offer Abraham and everyone who believes right here, this promise, redemption and eternal life. Notice, in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. What greater blessing is there ever than Jesus Christ? None. So this is beginning to look forward to this, okay? And all this is going to work itself out. We're going to see Abraham's response. Will Abraham respond faithfully, or will Abraham say, no thank you? Because quite frankly, you've got to imagine, all this is some God that he don't know yet. For all we know, he could be hearing voices. And you got to understand that it ain't like everybody else in his family is going, yeah, that sounds good. They're saying what? You're crazy, man. You're crazy. Imagine this conversation with Sarah. We got to leave everything behind, and we got to move forward to this voice that's talking to me. Ladies, if your husband came home and said, we're leaving everything behind to a voice that's talking to me, what would you say? Because that's what Sarah said at this point. What are you talking about? I don't know about this, man. But anyway, that didn't stop Abraham. Go and read verse 4 through 9.
So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people that they had acquired in Haran. And they set out to go to the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place at Shechem, to the oak of Morah. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land.
You see verse 7, that clarifies 2 and 3. In case y'all are kind of wondering, it's implicit in 2 and 3. It's explicit in verse 7. In case you ever wondered that. Okay, it took years to figure that part out. That's what's going on there. We'll keep going.
So he built an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. From there he moved to the hill country on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel in the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on, still going toward Negeb.
The Negeb, yeah, the dry land, the bad lands, that's what that means. In verse 4 through 5, Abraham obeys, he steps out in faith, he leaves behind everything that is familiar and everything that is firmly anchored in his past. This pictures your Christian walk. You are to leave behind everything that is worldly and familiar that ties you down and keeps you from God's call, everything that's anchored in the past, and move forward where God's leading. You have a choice. Your past or the future God has for you. You can't have them both. You can't. If you try to stay that way, you will lose and not be used. Very clear. Very clear. At this point, Abraham is 75. How long will it be before that offspring aspect comes to pass? Well, a little sooner than this because he has one kid with a hadn't-been wife. But another 25 years to the real promised offspring comes to pass. But Abraham doesn't know this. And as Lamar loves when I say, he's in the honeymoon period. So he's floating around in the honeymoon period. Things are going good with God. Yeah, things are going great. So what he's going to do is he's going to journey on down to the land of Canaan. And land, promised land, one day they'll get this. But for now what he's doing is he's journeying down to Canaan. And 6 through 7, he's going to stop at Shechem. We've heard of that place before. And he's going to go to the tree of Moriah, either an oak tree or a cashew tree. A name that means teacher, which in the ancient Near Eastern world was a big tree we worshipped at, and a place where you received divine oracles. That's what it's named place off of, okay? And in this case, he's going to what? Experience a theophany. We don't know how God appears, but it means God's going to appear to him in visible form, and he's going to confirm the promises and make them clear of offspring and land right here. So Abraham's going to respond by building an altar. Now, building an altar in the ancient Eastern world was kind of like staking the American flag on the moon. It was claiming that place for that individual. Okay? So when Abraham builds an altar here, what's going on is he's claiming this particular plot of land for a particular God. And he's making this place a special place of worship, particularly for Yahweh. So he's claiming this. Remember, when the ancient Near Eastern world thought, God never says, put other gods out of your mind. God never even says, technically, stop believing in other gods. He didn't do that, because remember, it's really real in his worldview, and demons really running it. He just says, you're going to follow me and me alone. It's monolatry, more like that, okay? More than monotheism at this point. So he listens and he proceeds. He builds this altar, then he travels around Canaan, Bethel, Ai, the dry lands, or as I call them, the bad lands, and he builds more and more altars. Doing what? Claiming this land for Yahweh. Okay? Which symbolizes his trust in God, but also his certainty that one day this land will be a place for his descendants to worship Yahweh themselves. See what he does there? This is our land. This is our land. This is our land. This is our land. This is Yahweh's land. This is my descendants' land. Got a problem though. He still ain't got no descendants. He still ain't got no kids. And he's going through the honeymoon period, and things are going good and gravy, and several years later, and guess what? Honeymoon period's over. And guess what? He still ain't got no kids. So guess what? What does Abraham do? We'll turn over to Genesis 15. God! Now, we're cool, God. I love you, God. But you promised me kids. Where is this promise you gave to me? Because I'm beginning to think you forgot that promise. Anybody here ever wonder what the world God's doing in your life? Thinking that God has moved you in a direction, that He has something laid out for you, that He has put on your heart, and you know for certain, based on divine information, He's taking you somewhere, and then year after year after year after year passes, and it still ain't come about? Well, this is where Abraham is right now. God, you told me I was having kids, but you know what? God, I ain't got no kids yet. Turn over to Genesis 15. The kids! Where are the kids? And this is the name of this section right here. And we're going to end in Genesis 15, go all the way through it quickly. And we're going to end in this with an ancient covenant ceremony that foreshadows the cross itself. Very important. Very important. Jesus is all throughout the Old Testament, and His work becomes clear in passages like this. Keep all this in mind. But first, we got the kids. Genesis 15, 1 through 3. Everybody, Genesis 15, 1 through 3.
After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Fear not, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. But Abram said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, Behold, you have given me no offspring, and a member of my household will be my heir.
Okay, now listen. Now, after these things, what happened in Genesis 14? Anybody remember? Nobody remembers Genesis 14. Come on now, Genesis 14 is cool, man. Look at this section of Genesis. We've just had the Melchizedek encounter. Okay? Which nothing crazy. I mean, he could be the incarnate Christ, he could be an angel, he could be a priest of Yahweh, he could be a bunch of things. But this dude is going to be inevitably in the New Testament, the priestly line that Jesus is said to come through. Just understand all that. We'll get to another day. So we've just left the Melchizedek encounter. What had Abraham done in the Melchizedek encounter? He had defeated the great world powers of the day. Little bitty Abraham goes marching through the land, takes a few men, and defeats the major powers of the day. How was that made possible? Because Yahweh was on his side. They got a war, already from the start. And guess who has to rescue? Lot. So he's going through this whole situation here. He's defeated world powers. He's just rescued Lot. And then the text tells us how the word of the Lord came to Abram. Now, this is a typical way to speak of how God gives revelation to the prophets. You know what? Abram was a prophet. We often miss this. Very good way to see this right here. We see it in Genesis 20. He has the prophetic revelation given to him, which will become relevant because he has a specific prophetic revelation given to him in verses 13 through 16. And we are told the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Now, those of you that have been in Acts, we know that a vision is a mode of revelation. Now, old books used to say a dream was when you were asleep, and a vision was when you were awake. We've had enough contextual studies to know that's not necessarily the case. How do we define a vision? Now, it is a mode of revelation, but in a vision, you don't know if you're awake or you're asleep. You just know that everything in the spiritual realm is really, really clear. You have a divine insight given to you to where you understand what's around you on a whole new level. You're on a whole new plane because you've been taken into another realm that's around you. You've been given spiritual glasses to see the spiritual activity that surrounds you at the moment. This is what a vision is right here. And in this vision, the Lord says, don't be afraid. Anytime you go into supernatural activity, one of the first things, if you're on the good side, they say to you is what? Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. Divine reassurance, because you'll be freaking out otherwise. I am your shield. I am your protector. And guess what? I'm the reason you just had military victory against the world powers of the day. And then he says your reward will be great, which is actually a term for mercenary payment. There. But what it's looking towards is Abraham's promised reward of offspring and land. The promised blessing. What is the problem with promising offspring and land? It's been several years. You know what? He ain't got it yet. So what does he say? Well, God, speaking of that promise of offspring, God, can we have a little talk about that? Can we have a little talk about that offspring child thing? Because here's the deal, God. In case you haven't noticed, you made that promise a long time ago, and I still don't have any kids yet. God, where are you? What are you doing? Because at this point, what it's going to seem like I'm going to have to do is, God, I'm going to have to take matters into my own hands, God. Because you're not doing anything. You're moving slow. I love you, man, but your timetable is just not mine. I'm getting old, God. I'm going to die soon. So you're moving too slow, God. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to legally adopt my loyal servant, Eliezer of Damascus. And so because of that, because you have failed to act here, God, saying that that's the way possible, I'm going to have to make an alien an heir of the great promise of inheritance, which basically is what Abraham's doing. Pay attention to this, and pay attention as much as you can right now. Because what Abraham is doing is, he's showing frustration over the current situation. Have you ever been frustrated with God? If you're wondering where God is, why this is happening to you, why God is moving too slow, why He's not intervening, why all the atheists are having the great things happen to them, and you're barely struggling to pay your bills. You ever wondered that stuff before? While all these Buddhists are all well, and you're struggling with health and about to die. You ever wondered this stuff before? Ever getting frustrated? This is where Abraham is right now. He is frustrated. And what he's saying here is his way to say to the Lord, God, it's not that I don't have faith. It's just that I need you to step in and remedy my lack of it. What does he say? What he's saying is, God, I got faith. I got faith. Don't get me wrong. I got faith. But at the moment, my faith seems to be broken. You've ever broken faith before? I have. God, you got to step in. My faith is broken. So what I need you to do, I need you to intervene and remind me again just who you really are. Not that I don't believe God. My faith is just broken. You got me right. This is what he says to this point. My faith is broken. You got to do something. To which the Lord responds in verse 4 through 6 by answering Abraham's exasperation with an emphatic affirmation. Dude, if you've got trouble believing, you're struggling. You know, remember the guy in the New Testament that goes to Jesus? I want to believe. You got to help my unbelief. God wants you to do that. He wants you to be honest. He don't want you floating through and going, well, you've got to believe, and have no idea what you're talking about. He wants you to come to him and say, I don't understand right now. Something working inside of me. I got to give it to you. I belong to you. I'm your child. You died for me. Intervene and show me who you are again. I'm having a hard time remembering. This is what he says right here. Come down, show me who you are. Remind me, Lord, I need you. You said you love me. I believe you love me. But I'm a frail human who needs help. But I belong to you, so help me. Help me, Daddy. Help me. And this is what he does right here in verse 4 through 6.
And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. This man shall not be your heir. Your very own son shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, look toward heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness.
So what does the Lord do? Remember, Abraham just said, my faith is broken. Help it, help it, help it. What does God do? Bad, Abraham, bad. Use the revealed question me. What does God do? What does he do? He goes right here and he patiently and he lovingly reminds his child of his promise and his plans. Just like I do for you. Just like I do for you. That's what he says right here. He says, no, Abraham, I know you're struggling, but remember, we're not in your timetable, we're on mine. And in my timetable, I promise you, as my child, I promise you, you're going to have your own son, your own heir. Which means the offspring I have intended for you is going to come from your own loins. Which means you will have a biological descendant. In fact, he guarantees Abraham, he goes, I got this promise for you. This promise is so great, it's going to surpass even your greatest expectations. Go outside and look in the heavens. Count the stars if you can, which is an ancient creation way of saying an incalculable number. You can't do that. He said, go outside, count the stars if you can. I guarantee you, your descendants will be so numerous, this promise I'm giving you will be so great, you yourself won't even be able to understand it or count it. This wasn't giving him an exact number itself, okay? It wasn't saying, like, we go, there's a trillion stars, therefore he's having a trillion. That's not what it's saying. What it's saying is, as a human being, you go outside and try to count the stars, you can't even get to 1,000 if you go inside. In the end, Abraham had millions of descendants. And once we get to his spiritual descendants, we'll have what? Billions. He will certainly have an incalculable number, just like God promised. Well, in the end right here, this word of reassurance, it strengthens Abraham where he believed in the Lord. This isn't talking about salvific belief. This is trusting that what God said would become a reality despite the appearances of the circumstances and putting his future into God's hands. So what happens? My faith is broken. God intervenes. And he says, you know what? I still don't understand. I don't understand the situation. But I know you, God. I trust you. I trust you, God. I trust you. So once again, he's letting me trust him, which in turn pleases God. Well, all this leads to another round of dialogue in verse 7 through 3. We've had the promise of offspring talked about. Well, now we've got the promise of land. All right? So Abraham's all good. He trusts about the offspring. But how's he going to respond about the land now? Because we got another situation, another difficulty, another curveball thrown his way, another obstacle to overcome. This is Abraham's life. Obstacles that must be divinely overcome, just like your walk with Christ. Abraham's picturing this. Read 7 through 11.
And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. But he said, O Lord God, how am I to know what I shall possess it? He said to him, bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, a ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he brought him all these, cut them in half, and laid them each half over against the other. But he did not cut the birds in half. And when the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. All
right. Now remember, 1 through 6 is about offspring. Now 7 we're going to the land promise. Which in turn, once we get on land, Abraham goes, what? He becomes a big skeptical again. He becomes just like, don't tell me you don't all of a sudden your faith is good and something else happened and you're strong still. You still got issues. Abraham does too. So he requests from God tangible evidence or proof that the promise will be fulfilled. So here's what God does. All right, we'll give you some proof. As proof, we're going to go through a covenant ceremony or a treaty ritual. This is going to be huge coming into the picture of salvation for later, okay? But for now, Abraham, go fetch me a heifer, a calf, or a young cow that could produce milk. Abraham, go to Lamar and Torres' house and get me a female goat. Abraham, he's apparently a zookeeper, getting animals here. Go get me a ram, a male sheep. Go get me a turtle dove. Go get me a young pigeon, which is possibly a young eagle. Anyway, look at it. Apparently he had a part-time job as a zookeeper, because what he's asked is go get a whole bunch of sacrificial animals. At least most of these guys are sacrificial animals. A command which Abraham promptly obeys. He is then commanded to do what? Pay attention to what he's commanded to do here. He's commanded to take all these animals, except the birds. He is to cut them in half and divide them exactly in two. Okay? He is then to arrange the pieces to where they face each other. Are you picturing that? You've got these butchered animals facing each other here. When you just butcher animals, what is going to happen to all the blood? You've got a lot of blood going here. What's it going to do when you're facing each other? It's going to run down together. It's going to form a pool. So you've got a pool of blood right here. And what this is going to see is we're going to have, it looks like a blood bath that's going to function as what's called a blood path. Goes together. See how it works? So we got the animals divided in half, a big pool of blood. That's enough way between them to be a path. And what this is going to do, this blood, the two parties are going to enter an arrangement, and they're going to walk on the blood, and they're going to go between the dead carcasses, and this is going to ratify the ritual and make the covenant binding. Well, this one you got to go, how in the world, if anything, does all this have to do with a treaty or a covenant? Well, in ancient Near Eastern times, they didn't sign covenants with a pen. They signed it with blood. So what we have here is, you didn't sign it with a pen, so what you would do is, instead you acted out the consequences of covenant and faithfulness, and you evoked a curse on yourself if you failed to meet your side of the covenant stipulations. Which means, when you went through these rituals, what you were saying is, if I break my side of the covenant, may what happened to these animals happen to me. What does that mean? If I don't do this, may I die. Boy, that's binding right there. You didn't break that covenant, did you? A very binding covenant that meant something to where the covenant standards had to be met. Well, before we get to the actual ritual itself, we are all of a sudden interrupted in the midst of all this. The next time was crazy right now. In the midst of all this, we get an ominous sign. We got birds of prey coming down. Oh my goodness, these birds of prey, they're trying to attack a ritual scene, which is going to set the tone for something to come up. And all of a sudden, these birds of prey swoop down and attack the carcasses. And then Abraham defends them all and attempts to drive them away. What this is doing is it's setting the tone for the prophetic nightmare he's about to endure. Now I don't want to get ahead of myself here because we're all going to move this quickly, but keep in mind something. Birds of prey often pictured Gentile nations. Okay? Gentile nations, such as maybe, I don't know, Egypt. Okay? Doing this right here and shooing them away and protecting something meant you were trying to rescue something valuable to you. I don't know, like descendants. So what we have here is a symbol of Egypt coming and attacking Abraham's descendants, and Abraham trying to rescue his descendants from something like Egypt. What does that begin to picture? What's going to happen to Abraham's descendants? When in the end they are rescued because of what? Their connection to God's connection to Abraham's covenant. See how this is beginning to play itself out? Paints this picture. And this is all setting the tone. Before we get ahead of ourselves, you'll see how this plays out right here in verse 12 through 16. We're getting closer. Almost done. Verse 12 through 16. Read that.
As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram. And behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be their servants. And they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, ye shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. And they shall come back here in the 4th generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. So verse 12 starts out by Abraham. What? He's going to go into this deep sleep, which is a sleep-like trance, intensely put on him by God. It's the same Hebrew terminology that was put on Adam when divine surgery was going out to create Eve. So we have a deep, in this case we're in a trance where he's seeing things, okay? So he's in this deep trance, and he's going to have this dark cloud come over him, which is going to symbolize this dark, terrifying, emotional state that can only be described in modern terms as what we would call a dreadful horror movie nightmare. Keep in mind, and I'm not a big fan of horror movies, I just don't get into them. I don't know if you do or not, you've seen one before.
And this is meant to bring imagery of every corner having something terrifying going on to where your body is freaked out and you're on edge. You're in a nightmare. He's in a nightmare right here, which is setting the atmosphere of the gloomy forecast when God is revealing to him the future. Not only that he will not only have descendants, but the future enslavement of these descendants, where they will be held against their will for centuries while being forced in brutal servitude, turning Abraham's nightmare into their cruel reality. What is that predicting? Several hundred years beforehand. What is that looking forward to? What's going to happen to his descendants when they're enslaved in Egypt? All this is happening hundreds of years before all this takes place. So he's getting a picture of all this. Not only will you have descendants, here's what's going to happen to them. And then as Abraham starts to freak out, the Lord promises a surprising turnaround when God brings retribution on those who oppress Abraham's offspring, frees them, and has them leaving the land of their oppression with great wealth. How did the Israelites march out of Egypt? With a lot of stuff that was not their own. Free. Because God had retribution planned on the enemies. All small scale picture of a great historical event. And then it shifts over to Abraham himself. Because you got to be remembering, you're watching this happen to your descendants. You're probably going, that happens to them. What's going to happen to me? So what God does right here, God alleviates and says, don't worry, you're going to have a peaceful death and old age. And then as quick as it shifts over to that, it shifts back again to his descendants, and it pictures them coming back out of their enslavement to the exact place where Abraham is standing, the land of Canaan. The what? Promised land. The whole thing, all this was about. The place where Abraham was receiving the divine revelation, God was promising would one day be the land of his descendants. All this is playing itself out. All this is being shown to him years and years and years before. And then all of a sudden, if that weren't enough, it takes one last key scene and it shifts to the covenant ceremony itself. Remember the animals we had. Remember the pool of blood we had. And now we're going from the dreamlike nightmare and we're going back to the ceremony itself in verse 17 to 21. And we will be done after that. Read that for us.
When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking firepot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your offspring I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cabanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites.
Now notice this right here, okay? In verse 17, the focus goes back to those severed animal carcasses. And we've got the blood path. That is the bloodbath of verse 9 through 10. And the Lord himself takes visible form. What is the Lord's visible form here? What do you see?
A torch.
A smoking fire pot and a flaming torch. So we've got fire and smoke representing the divine presence. And like most ancient Near Eastern covenant rituals, the more powerful individual, who's the more powerful individual in this picture? God or Abraham? God. So the more powerful individual, the higher-ranking superior, he's going to define the terms of the covenant, and then he's going to walk to the dead animals in the blood path first, and what's going to happen is, he's going to say, may this happen to me if I don't fulfill my side. Which is how things evolve. The Lord passes through it, he invokes a self-curse, and he says, if I don't fulfill my side of the covenant, the land of the descendants, may this happen to me. May God die. What he says right here. Well, how does all that work out? Don't worry, we'll get there. And then notice something. You notice something. Only one party passes through the dead animals and the blood. This is going to be huge. Pay attention to this. Only one animal passes through the dead animals and the blood. It's going to be the smoking fire pot and the flaming torch. It's going to pass through it once. It's going to pass through it again. Which means who passes through the covenant? Who gets the standards? Only God and not Abraham. Now listen, we're almost done. This is going to be huge right here, okay? Because what this means is, Abraham is about to walk through the dead animals. He's about to walk through the blood path. But first what happens is, God is going to lay out Abraham's side of the covenant. He's going to say, Abraham, I'll give you land and descendants, my side. Abraham, here's going to be your side. What you're going to have to do, Abraham, is you're going to have perfect loyalty and perfect obedience to God's standards. So what does he say? Abraham, I'll fulfill my side. But Abraham, in order for you to fulfill your side, you must be perfectly sinless. Well, that's a big thing to go through right there. Because if Abraham walks through, What he's saying is, if I'm not sinless, may I die. May I be ripped apart like these animals. May God kill me on the spot if I sin even once. That's crucial right there. So Abraham's going, I don't know about this, God. I don't know. But he gets ready. He's about to do it. And as he walks through, just as he's about to go through the bloody animals, God says, stop! Stop, Abraham. You're not going to. What's going to happen? Stop! God himself goes through it a second time. And he says, Abraham, I'm going through these animals in your place. So what he says right here is, Abraham, here's the deal. If I don't fulfill my side of the covenant, may I die. Abraham, if you don't fulfill your side of the covenant, which is perfect sinlessness, may I die. What he's saying here is, Abraham, may I be cursed and pay the penalty and become utterly slaughtered like these animals in order to make your transgressions right if you sin even once. Boy, that's starting to paint a picture, isn't it? What he's saying right here, the Lord is saying, Abraham, this covenant must be kept. But in the end, I am the only one who can keep this covenant. Somebody's got to die. Either me or you. And I'm going to take your place, Abraham. I am going to pass through your side of the covenant through these pieces and evoke that curse on myself if you ever fail. This is what he's beginning to say right here. He's beginning to foreshadow what this does. He's foreshadowing what would literally take place almost 2,000 years later when the Lord himself, in fact, did, to fulfill his side of the covenant, enter into the curse, take on the full wrath being poured upon him, and allow himself to be killed and ripped apart for covenant transgressions. What is this picture? This is picturing the salvific work of Jesus Christ in your place because of your covenant transgressions. In the end, you will not be able to keep your side of the covenant. And in the end, transgression of covenant stipulations requires a curse. But in the end, the question is going to be, in the animal ritual of your life, who is going to pass through and take that curse upon themselves? You are the one who's willing to take the curse in your place. It started with Abraham. It ends with Jesus. And it extends to you. Where are you in your walk with Christ? Because in the end, if you don't have Him, the curse will be poured on you. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we love you and we thank you, Jesus. It's amazing how your word breaks itself down, where your word is going, what you are doing with the plan of salvation, how you have revealed yourself time and time again. Lord, even when the enemy tries to get involved and disrupt what it is you're saying, you bring to life the truth of salvation, what it is that we owe you, why it is that you're worthy. You've been predicting this for years and years and centuries and years and centuries and years. You are worthy.
Amen.
Jesus, either we take the curse for our covenant transgression, or we hand it to you as the one who's willing to walk through the pieces on our behalf. You have taken the curse, so we don't have to. Jesus, we love you, we thank you, and we bow a knee to your greatness. Master, you are worthy for your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys, we are done. There will be no church tonight. There will be no anything else. So I will see you guys Wednesday. And don't forget, there will be no church again July 3rd that Wednesday. Anything else more? We are dismissed. Get watermelon?